Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Lisa. So Lisa, welcome.
Hi.
So finally, I think we've been trying to get this interview going for like 4 months now or something like that. But
I think the entire process is about 3 months. Yeah.
yeah, it's been a while, but we finally made it happen. So awesome to
Yeah.
finally. Um, so you got your official typing from Dave and Shan. Now, I know you don't agree with it, but what is your official typing from them? And then we'll kind of segue later on to figuring out your
Um,
type could be. All right.
Official typing is consume, sleep, blast. SCFI.
And sexual modality?
Double feminine.
Okay, so double feminine, ESFP, consume, sleep, blast, play.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, how did you feel when you got your type back, or what did you think? Like, it was clearly something that was quite huge, you know, a huge.
Well, at first I was really excited because I went in thinking like it could be any type, and whatever type it is, I'm gonna accept, and I'm gonna just learn from there, like how I fit into this type, regardless of whatever type it is. I went in with an open mind, surprisingly, and then um, I kind of started to not agree with it when um, it seemed like there wasn't really anything backing up how they chose my lead savior. And which is fine. Like, I know you can't prove anything, but that's kind of like a big thing to kind of say, let's go this way instead of that way without having anything to back it up at all. I think Dave said maybe he thought that I was gathering experiences, but he was making a lot of assumptions in that. And so that was the only thing that he went off of for that. And the more that I learned like the OP system, the more it just seemed like that lead consume SE didn't fit with me, mostly because I have a very strong need for certainty, and it's like the exact opposite for that.
Gotcha. Now,
Yeah.
it's been, I think, a little over 3 months since you got your type back. So you
Yeah.
had some time to mull it over, kind of to see, okay, is this right? Is this wrong? You know, kind of figure out which parts you disagree with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so since getting your type back and now, so have you come up with any conclusion or felt like?
So yeah, there are a lot of parts that I agree with. As far as like I didn't really see that before, and now I do. I can tell that, I deeply have these values that I'm using. And before, I was under the belief that I was using FE because my values tend to be like more FE looking things. Like, I value harmony and connection, and for me, I assumed that it was FE, and in their system, it's clear that it's FI.
Gotcha. So let's go through your animals and kind of see how you felt.
Sure.
So let's start with the first one, consume first. Did you agree with that or not at all?
So I thought that my consume was probably third, like in the hobby spot, because it always felt like something that like wasn't the MO and I would like wanted to get to. Um, so that threw me off, but um, I can sort of see it maybe now as a savior, but I don't think that it's lead. Um, but yeah.
What about sleep second? What did you think about that one?
Um, that to me felt like it was a savior. All my life I've basically just been stuck in my head, more so in my early childhood and in my 20s. So sleep wasn't really a shock to me. I felt like that was going to be a savior. I just didn't know in which place.
What about blast third? What did you think of having blast third?
I thought my blast was going to be last.
Oh, you thought your blast last.
I thought, yeah. I communicating is very difficult for me. I'm an extremely quiet person.
Yes.
I use the internet to blast, I think, the most when I want to, but in my daily life, it's hardly a thing for me.
And then what about Play Last? What did you think about that?
Play Last also, I wasn't sure about, but I can kind of see it. It's hard for Blast and Play because they both very much feel like demons. I just can't tell which is like at the very bottom.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so you did agree that either Blast or Play was third or fourth. Like they're relatively both demons. So
Both demons. Yeah.
right. So in a sense that when they type you, they did have both of them as your demon. However,
Mm-hmm.
you were surprised that you had Blast over Play. Do you
It
agree?
was a little.
Do you think you're Blast over Play or Play over Blast?
I can't tell. I really don't. I feel just as much energy dominant as I am info dominant.
Right.
I go throughout my day kind of measuring what I do based on how much energy I'm going to have to expend throughout the day.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm also very, very like info craving.
Yeah. So I think like just from what I can tell, like, you know, when I watch your videos before, and then like just talking to you this, you know, past 3 months, on Facebook, I think the most prominent thing about you was the FI. Like right when I saw your video, I'm like, oh, FI. You know, like you know, there's always something about the person that's quite easy to pick out.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of like just, you know, just shoots out. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's this person is FI. Like, yeah. So for me, like, there's no doubt in my mind you have FI. Like that to me is like the most obvious
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think it's a savior for sure because you use it so much. It's just like so effortless, you know, like,
What's funny about it is FI users, they typically like know their likes and dislikes. And so that's been something that's held me back, I think, in typical MBTI is getting to the FI is like, I have very little knowledge of like my like physical likes and dislikes, like the things, like I might know it when I come across it,
yeah.
But as far as like recalling those things, I have the worst time trying to, like, I couldn't tell you like a list of things that I like right now.
Yeah, that's weird. But then when you're kind of subconscious about it, it
Yeah.
comes out like naturally.
Yeah. Like naturally, sure.
Yeah. Like, yeah, when you're not thinking about it, it comes out. But when you're thinking about it, you don't know how.
I don't know how to. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what's
Like
happening.
I'm put out on the spot. I can't do it.
Right, and that could be because
that's how I am with details and examples in general. It seems like in a very casual conversation with somebody that I'm very close with, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
And then in like this type of situation, I feel, I don't know, like a sense of pressure to be able to bring that information out, and then my mind goes blank.
Right, but you're pretty good at communicating your feelings. Like you just did it right now. You know, like effortlessly. You just did it. So, I mean,
So
yeah.
on the spectrum, yes.
I mean, it was subconscious, but you did it.
Yeah.
So it could be a problem with play also. You know, like
could be, yeah.
You know, having that as last, maybe improvising might be something that's difficult for you. Something that is challenging. You need to be well prepared before you take action, or you say something, like you're careful. I don't know if that
absolutely, yes. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Okay, because I did agree with their typing also with the play last.
You did, okay.
The play last I definitely agreed with. So
it seems like most people agree with the play last. I think the only way that you would see the type of energy conservation that I do is if you are me or watching me throughout the day or knowing like what I do. Because I don't know, I'm bad at explaining things. So if I try to explain it to you, it's just not going to come out the right way.
Right.
But I do agree the chances are that I am most likely info dominant for sure and play last.
I think you're info dominant because since you got your type back, you've been freaking out about not having the right information. Uh,
Yeah.
if you weren't freaking about, losing sleep or not having enough energy, like you do think about it because you do have play last, so your energy is finite. Like you don't have as much energy, but
Right.
the one thing that really pressed your buttons was not having the right information. That really freaked you out.
There were definite freakouts there.
Yeah, it was definitely a huge freak out. And then, you had freak out with the tribe too, which again reinforces play last, right? Like, so it's, um, so, okay. Info dominant. So that we have that for sure. So I'm going to just write it down here. Info dominant.
Okay.
This one
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident with that one.
Okay.
You're definitely a double decider from what I've seen.
Oh,
What happened to your video?
sorry.
No worries.
I got a phone call. I had to use my phone.
Okay, it's okay. Yeah, no, I definitely think you're a decider because since trying to plan our interview together, you would first go to yourself. So you're definitely self above tribe. I can see that.
Okay.
But then after you kind of go through like your self thing, you were like, wait. What about the other person? So
Yeah.
you are pretty balanced with self and tribe overall.
Okay.
But that doesn't explain if you're an EP or IJ, because that could be either or, right?
Either or, yeah.
Because an EP or IJ would both be double deciders. So
Right.
in that sense, the EP or IJ might still be correct. The info dominant might still be correct. Play last might still be correct. So what we need to narrow down is so the tricky thing is, if you're an IJ, then you would have to be, if you have FI and you're an IJ, then you would have to be an INTJ or ISTJ. Those will be the only two options if you were an IJ. And then if you were an EP, then it would have to be, an ENFP or ESFP.
Right.
Like those, there's only like four of the old, yeah, four of the bigger umbrellas that we can narrow you down to before we can go deeper.
Yes.
What about your sexual modalities? Do you agree with being double feminine? Like, are you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. It seems about right. Yeah, my inner world feels very unmovable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's start with the tribe. Would you say you're quite flexible with the tribe, or are you the one that's kind of bossing the tribe around?
For the most part, probably pretty flexible.
Flexible.
Sometimes I can get a little pushy, but I think that's in situations where like my inner world is really like, or I don't know, like it's not adding up for me with the outside or the tribe saying this or that. And it's just like, I have basically the way I think it is. And then I can get a little pushy.
Okay. And what about with the sensory? Are you good at remembering facts and details, or do you just not always?
I have a thing for remembering dates, but that's about it. So on the spectrum, no.
Okay, so feminine sensory then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me think about that. Okay. So what we need to figure out now is your first three animals. And we need to figure out. So I think you can agree that you do have Blast as a demon also. So we'll put that here. Okay, so Blast and Play I think is accurate. So now we have to figure out if you're consume above sleep or sleep above consume. And we need to figure out if you're an IJ or EP. So you said that you are, what did you describe yourself before? Like you're very cautious, you're afraid of chaos, or can you, how would you describe?
I'm very cautious. Yeah. I just plan to make sure that the desired result is where I get to. Like I look at mostly I think what's happened like in the past to come to conclusions on what's the best way to approach getting to an end result. And part of that is just avoiding the disruptions and, you know, the chaos. I'm not a fan of things not going the way that I planned them, which can sometimes does happen. But
Gotcha.
yeah.
You were an ESFP. Okay, so they type you as an ESFP. Did they describe why you were SF? Because if you were lead consume, then you would be SF. Is that correct? SE and FI. Yeah, right. So, you know, like what kind of stuff are you into? Like what do you what are your hobbies or are
I don't have hobbies.
have no hobbies? Okay, like
No, see, this is part of the like on the spot thing. I don't really have like the typical hobbies. I have goals and visions and places that I want to get to in life. Like I'm always thinking about how me today is going to affect me tomorrow or next week or like 10 years from now. And so I'm constantly living in the future in my head. And that doesn't really leave a lot of space to be like, oh, let me spend the time right now on doing this or that, unless it's like I'm working towards something, and that's usually not like interest related. Like my boyfriend's got all these hobbies. He's a definite like FI person. He's got video games. He's a musician. He is like a writer too. And I just don't have like any of those things. Like I don't have hobbies.
what do you do in your free time then, like for fun?
I sit and I think.
Really, you don't.
I'm in my head 24/7 unless I throw myself into being in the present.
What about like reading books or any of that stuff? Do you do any of that, or are you just sitting there?
No, I don't really read a lot of books. I used to read a lot more, I think, when I was younger. But lately I just have not been reading.
Well, when you and your boyfriend are hanging out, like, do you guys chat then, or like does he get you to do some of the hobbies that he's doing?
So he's mostly talking to me when we're hanging out about his hobbies, and I'm like the designated listener.
Yeah.
And we do have shared interests, like as far as like typology and like sociology, like more conceptual things, but we don't like, I don't play video games with him. I don't share his interests. And he's okay with that. Like he doesn't expect me to do those things with him. So a lot of the time, to be honest, like we'll just be side by side. He'll be sitting there on the couch and I'll just be looking at my phone, switching between looking at my phone and thinking, and he'll be playing a video game or making some music or doing the things that he likes to do. He's a big creative person. And most of the time I'm just sitting there staring, and it trips him up all the time because he thinks, still, we've been together 5 years. Sometimes he'll think that like I'm looking at something and really I'm just not even in the world. Like I'm inside my head.
Right.
And he'll be like, you're doing it. And I'm like, sorry, I can't, just don't pay attention to me. Like if it's bothering you, like that I'm just staring at this wall like for an hour straight, then just don't look at me. Like I don't know. It's a very weird thing to observe. So I feel like a complete weirdo most of the time, but it's just my natural state.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll throw out some questions to you, and then let's see if you can answer them. Okay. First,
Okay.
Where do you see yourself 20 years from now?
20 years from now?
Where do you see?
Probably living in the same city, basically doing what I've been doing, except just a different variation of it. I'm a nanny.
Yeah.
And in 20 years, I want to have my own business where I'm a certified newborn care specialist, which is just basically working with mothers and infants for like the first 6 to 8 weeks of their life. But to do all that, I have to go through some more training, and I would have to build like a business model So that is something that I'm going to be working towards more within like the next 5 years, but hopefully within 20 years, I will be well established and be at that place. Hopefully still in the same relationship because everything's going great there. But yeah, that's about it. I'm very career focused.
What is what is it about being a nanny that you enjoy or that you like? Like, why did you choose that career specifically?
I like the idea that I can make a impression on a young child's mind, because when you're developing the first like 3-4 years, connection is extremely important for those years. Like as far as attachment goes, it's been known to connect directly to an individual's mental health as an adult. And all children need is just one very strong, healthy bond in their life with those ages in order to have a higher success rate as an individual. And I just want to be able to give that to as many children as I can, basically.
And you were talking about
a lot of, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah, the finish your thought and I'll ask you the question. I'll follow up.
So I don't want to put anybody down, but a lot of the times, like the mothers who choose to use individualized care are very absent mothers. And in a sense, I become basically mother in that situation. And so I feel like if I can somehow replace that child's needs for attachment, at least they're getting it somewhere, essentially.
Okay, so even if they're not getting it from their mom, at least they're getting it from something, and when they grow up,
that's all that matters. Yes.
Yeah, they're still healthy. Okay. Now earlier you mentioned about you want to start your own business eventually. What kind of business model were you thinking of using? Have you given this any thought?
The model itself, no, I haven't. I'm working towards the training first. So I just completed last year the first step. There's like several different courses that you have to go through. So my goal right now is to just get through all the training and get to the advanced training, and then from there work towards a business model.
Okay, and what is your preferred way of having a business? Like, if you can envision your business, what kind of business would you like to have? Like, how does it work?
So in this industry, if you are a newborn care specialist, you basically are the sole employee. You run everything. You make the rules, essentially. You don't have employees. So it's basically, I get certified. I get, my name out there. I'm already pretty decently established as a nanny. I've been working in the industry for 10 years. So I have a lot of experience behind me already. And it's just a matter of marketing myself correctly, going after specific needs that the women who want newborn care specialists need. A lot of the times they are mothers who have higher order multiples who just need an extra set of hands. So in the future, I would have to get this experience that I don't have yet with working with higher order multiples. So part of that business plan would be volunteering my time to go to a hospital and work with these higher order multiples that not everybody gets to run into on a daily basis, even as like a nanny with 10 years experience.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that was really good, actually. Awesome.
There's a lot of pieces to it, but I can see where they fit, and it's just a matter of getting there and, eliminating everything else that's going to disrupt that process.
Okay. Can you describe some of the steps to get there?
To get to, I feel like I just did that.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. I managed to help eliminate some of the stuff here. So you're definitely not an ENFP. You don't use NE. Um, we're definitely using NI here. Okay, so that's out. So we're, we can narrow you down to a few types. So um, no, you're not an ISTJ either because you're not using NE. So that's out. So it's definitely between ESFP or INTJ. You're either like a jumper INTJ, or your current typing. So
Yes. And that's where I've narrowed it down as well.
right, which is good because I remember when I typed Grace, I also had this exact same thing. It was down to this two types. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's good that we're down. So okay, I'm just trying to think now. Give me 1 second, okay? Let me just.
Sure.
Your official typing have you would consume over sleep, but then you are saying that you're spending a lot of time in your head, more than you're consuming.
Yes. It's what I do all day.
However, when you just explain to me all the steps to becoming or moving on with your career, you were very ST clear. Which is odd because you play last and that's your ST, right? But then you were very clear. Like I understood everything that you said. It wasn't like wishy-washy or something. But let's keep let's keep plotting though, because I'm curious now. Because I mean you're talking to me, so it makes sense. If you're talking to the tribe, you're gonna be using ST, right? So and
I also have a lot of practice with trying to make myself clear because I've spent all my life not being understood and people looking at me with these looks like, what are you even talking about?
Oh, really?
Yes. It's something that I've worked towards. And I think that being on the internet has helped as well because I get to sit there and revise and think about, well, is there a way to say this that is more receptive to somebody or more clear?
Okay. That was I'm trying to figure out how we can narrow this down some more because the biggest one we need to figure out now is if you have consume over sleep or sleep over consume. But then we don't have any proof right now, so we can't go with that because we have nothing. You were pretty your explanation also about the reasons why nannies are important was also very logical. So that was very NT. So you got the NT part also, I think, happening.
But wouldn't my blast for either potentially be NT?
Right, that's why it's confusing.
Like all the parts are going to be the same. It's just the order, right?
Yes, that's why it's super tough because it could go either or. Just trying to think right now. So I'm opening their cross list right now, their cross check, so I can start to eliminate some stuff because it's
sure.
It's just so. I think you're pretty tough to type because it's.
I feel very well balanced, which is at the end of the day a good thing, right?
Yeah, no, it's a very good thing. Okay, so give me just 1 second here. So I'm gonna delete all the. I'm just looking. Now you can't see this, but I'm using the cross check that they have on their website.
Okay.
You know that they like when they have classes, they have like a cross check. So I'm just eliminating all the.
I don't think I've ever used one of those.
No, I mean I don't use it that often, but when I type Grace, I used it because it was just like it was easier for me to find a clue. So right now I'm stumped, trying to figure out what your type is because so far from what we've narrowed down, you could either be an ESFP for sure, like maybe they did type you right, or maybe you are not. You're an INTJ jumper. So there's only two options at this point. So you're not an IP because you're very double decidery. Okay. Is there anything that you want to share with me that you haven't shared yet?
No.
No.
Not in.
What were you like during your childhood?
I'm sorry?
What were you like during your early childhood? Like, let's say you were 7 years old or 8. What were you like?
I was very reclusive, quiet, kept to myself, mostly in my head, daydreamed a lot. They thought I had like a learning disability because I just didn't apply myself like ever. I was always just thinking to myself constantly, or sleeping, literally sleeping in class.
Sleeping in class, like in school?
Oh yeah,
Did you get in trouble a lot for that then?
yes. I'm surprised I actually even graduated high school.
You never paid attention in class?
No.
How did you do in school though?
Awful. I was a very bad student. There were certain subjects that I enjoyed, but overall, school was very difficult for me. Concentration on what needed to be paid attention to was very minimal.
What about in high school? What were you like in high school?
About the same. I had one best friend though at that point, and so I had someone who she's actually someone I consider like to be the typical ESFP.
Okay.
Yeah, so she kind of brought me out of my shell a little bit more, and we're still best friends to this day. But
oh, that's awesome. Is she? Would you play first or play savior?
Probably play first. Yes, probably play first for sure.
So someone that would be your opposite then.
Yeah.
Did you go to Nanny?
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Finish your story first, and then I'll follow up the question.
I already forgot where I was going with it.
Okay. Did you go to Nanny school, or did you start?
I didn't like initially go to nanny school. I just I started in daycare actually, and I was in daycare for 3 years before I decided I wanted to work one-on-one with children instead. That it was just a better fit for me that way.
I see.
But I have gone through several training courses just for childhood education. Are you like checking stuff off right now? Is that what you're doing? Or?
I am checking stuff off.
Okay. I can hear it like click.
Yeah, no, there's because there's only 2 types you could be. Like,
okay.
Like it's literally narrowed down to 2 types. So it's so hard to figure out like which of these 2. Like there's only 2 types that you could be. You're either sleep consume, blast play, double feminine, INTJ, or your current typing right now, your official typing. So it's narrowed down to those 2. So if they got your wrong type, it's or if they got it right. So it's possible they got it right, but it's also possible they got it.
It's very close. If it's wrong, it's basically still with as much development on one end or the other that I feel, because I'm so balanced. It's essentially basically the same type. Like I keep looking at it, it's like this is the same type.
Yeah, it's tough because for that very reason, because it's narrowed down to exactly those 2. So I don't think, like, I'm not gonna say anything right now because I don't know if they got your type right or not. It's still
right.
Like I know you're saying a lot of stuff about that points to sleep, but it's not enough to validate that it's the type. But it's still one of the 2. There's only like 2 type that you could be.
Yeah.
So what we need to figure out is if you're organizing or gathering. That's pretty much. Let me just think here. So the thing that we need to figure out right now is if you are using SF first, or if you're using NF first. That's the first one that we need to figure out. Number 2, we need to figure out if you're organizing or gathering. Like we need to be very objective with this. So you're definitely prioritizing feelings. So that's all right. So another thing that we could prioritize is if you're using sensing or intuition, right?
Okay.
So that those are the 3 things that we need to work on right now. Because you definitely have. This is tough. Okay, I'll leave. So there's a few cross checks here that we can play with actually. That now that I'm
sure.
So you have Savior FI, not TE. And okay, sleep, consume. Okay. Okay, so let's try to figure out if you are using sensing or intuition.
Okay.
Okay.
You have prepared questions for that?
Well, the thing is, you kind of answered this question already earlier, but I want to have like more answers.
Of course.
That's why I was asking you what you wanted to do 20 years from now, because I was trying to figure out how good your N was. The only thing you proved to me was your FI is really good. So I'm like, oh, great, I'm stumped again, because it's, again, going back to FI, because you told me exactly what your passion was and what you wanted to do. So I'm like, oh, okay. I know I know you sent me that video of Cal Newport, but you know that makes sense. But I feel like for you, it's definitely you're using FI. And I, okay. How did you get into typology?
I took the official MBTI at therapy when I was about 19.
Okay.
And then I threw the results in a closet and found them 10 years later.
Okay, and then what was your typing result from the MBTI that you got 10 years ago?
It was INFJ.
INFJ, okay. I mean, you kind of look like an INFJ, but like when I first
saw it was just the MBTI, which is, you know.
I mean, that when I first saw you, I thought INFJ right away, but then when you started talking, I was like, FI, you know, so I'm like, okay, not INFJ for sure. Okay, so that doesn't help us.
Can I ask what, I mean, were you just trying to get me to talk? What was the point of asking about how I got into typology?
I was trying to figure out if you had like a sequence of like how you gather the information for typology.
Oh.
You get to where so someone gave it to you because you weren't in therapy. So someone gave it to you. You didn't seek it out, right? So you didn't gather it. You didn't gather it. Yeah, okay. Okay. But then later on you went back to it. So what made
I was cleaning the closet and I found it.
Okay, you're cleaning the closet and you found it. Now, what made you seek out OP then, like objective personality?
I came to a place after thinking for several years that I was an INFJ that it doesn't really matter what my type is, which is interesting because I before that I was like, I'm an INFJ hands down. I was very solid on that. And then I discovered, because it felt extremely subjective to me, and I was realizing how subjective my own internal thoughts are. And then when I saw that objective personality type is supposed to be objective, then that just kind of reignited like the like interest, is like, oh, this is objective. This is going to tell me for sure what I am. and I won't have my own subjective opinion on it. And so that's really just what like reeled me in, was like the idea that it was going to be like just definite and it wasn't going to come from where I was thinking, which is funny now.
Well, the only thing that proves is you're info dominant. But
yeah.
How did you find objective personality though?
I think someone was talking about it in one of the many typology groups that I'm already in. I think somebody had posted like a Dave Superpowers video and I just watched one.
Okay.
That's what I can think it happened. I don't know for sure.
And what made you like how many months before you got officially typed? Like before you decided to get officially typed?
How many months before? Well, I was in the class for like over a year. Actually, no, I was studying it just based off of like the YouTube videos for a year, but I dropped out after 2 months of the official class because I couldn't like dedicate time to it and I didn't want to waste the money. So then I was just learning what I could from the face or from YouTube, but it was very slow going. And it took me about like a year and 4 months before I was like, I'm going to get officially typed and rejoin the class.
Gotcha. So later on, you rejoined the class and you got officially typed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I basically got to jump the line because I told Shannon that I had already been like in the class before. So I didn't have to wait the time.
Gotcha.
You know how it's like 2 months or whatever.
Right. So I think when you had your little like drama happening with the group, one of the things that they said was, how come you only sent one video in? So what would the reason be for sending only one video in at first?
Probably a play related issue. It's very difficult for me to just talk to a camera and answer these questions. I'm very in my head and I don't feel like I don't feel speaking is always necessary. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. So it was my fault that I had only sent in like 30 minutes. And I take the responsibility for that. I should have sent in more, but that 30 minutes was very difficult for me. So I sent in what I had.
Got it. And then before our interview, you were also kind of, you did not want your first name to be used as a title for this interview. I won't use it, but I'm just curious. What
Sure.
is like what was it about having your name there that kind of made you feel uncomfortable, like having your first name on YouTube?
So in my industry, it shouldn't be this way in my opinion, but in my industry, it's almost looked at as like your caretaker or your nanny shouldn't have they shouldn't be their own person, essentially. It's like any little thing that you would look at somebody else for negatively, you could look at critically as, well, I don't want my nanny to do or think this. And so you never know when you're working with a family, what's going to end up being something that they just don't approve of or they don't, and it's just more of a liability for me to put myself out there like that.
Is that a fact? Did you research this? Like, have you seen any nanny that, like, all nannies have no YouTube channel or YouTube videos or any of that stuff?
No, I haven't looked into it, but it's just from being in the industry. I know you're supposed to. I don't know. No. What?
No, I'm just curious. No, like, I mean, do you have any coworkers or people that you know that works in the same industry as you that you've spoken to before, that told you this thing, or was there like a rule book somewhere that said that you can't do this, or did you just like,
No.
or did you just assume that this is a bad thing, that you can't have your name?
To me, it feels like it's not an assumption. Like this is just the way it is. But I didn't get it from anywhere. I don't know. Like
where did that notion come from? Like, where did that idea that, like,
I don't know. I just know the industry. Like I don't know.
Gotcha. What do you think would happen if they found you on like YouTube? Like, let's say they Googled Lisa and then they found you. What do you think they would think?
That's hard to say. Like the family that I work for right now is very understanding, and I'm actually very close to them. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just, I don't know. The lines are so blurred between that relationship as it is, because it's a domestic relationship, but it's also professional. Like you have to be professional, so that any type of information that they have outside of that role for me could be potentially used against me, even if it has nothing to do with my job, because it's such a close personal job.
Because of your relationship with their child, essentially.
Yeah. Yes.
What if it's just like a simple, typing video? You're like, you like doing nerdy stuff in your spare time, like.
Here's the thing, you never know what is going to be, like, we're close, but I don't know the inner workings of their personal lives to that degree. Maybe they don't want a nanny who devotes all her time to typology, and they think that it's ridiculous. And is my nanny going to be teaching this to my child? They don't. What if they happen to not like that? I just always have to be on guard.
Let me think about that. Okay. So this family that you've been working with, you said you've been working with them for a while. Do you usually have multiple jobs, or do you usually just work with one family at a time?
I work with one family at a time.
Okay. And then is it like a set contract, or do you work with them until they don't need you anymore, kind of like deal?
It's a set contract yearly. We update every year.
Okay. And then how many families have you worked with since you've become a full-time nanny?
I don't know the exact number, but I would say somewhere between 7 and 8. Usually I'm a nanny. The turnaround is about 2 to 3 years because they go into preschool or they move. I work in the city, and what happens a lot of the time is the parents decide to move from the city to the suburbs, and then I lose my job.
Okay, so when they move, they cancel their contract then, or they don't renew the contract?
No, they don't. In the contract, we talk about leave and what the appropriate amount of time is that they have to give me or pay me out for the rest of that time.
Oh, I see. So they just pay you out then, and then you're.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Have you ever had dealt with a difficult family where you had
Yes. Difficult in what sense?
I'm
curious what you think is difficult.
Well, it's open-ended, but like maybe they weren't nice to you, or
Yes.
maybe.
Yes.
Was that more early on in your career, or like more recent in your career, or?
My first nanny job was the most difficult experience of my entire life when it comes to career. That family was very, very difficult to work for. I lived in their house. I was working 24/7, 7 days a week, and they were not very nice people.
And then
I set myself a goal of to be there for a year, and I made it, and then I was out.
Also, you stopped it out for a year, and then you got up.
Mm-hmm.
Did they ask to renew with you afterwards, or did you?
Yes. Yes.
So they liked you, but they didn't.
They liked that I was someone who was willing to do the job. They've been through several nannies before me who just couldn't do it because it's such a demanding position.
A position because they're the bosses, or is it because?
It's demanding because you're essentially just living their life with their children and scheduling all of their social. It was like a house manager. Like I was literally mom. It was just, you didn't have a life for yourself, essentially. And so everyone wants to be able to have some part of their life to themselves, but I didn't have a life for a year because of that.
You said you were a house manager, so you were doing other stuff on top of taking care of their kids. Was
Yes.
that part of the agreement, or was that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I see. That's interesting. So later on, when you started picking up other gigs, you made sure it was just a kid. You didn't want to do.
Yes. Now I'm kind of branching back into house management, more type of stuff now that I have a decent handle on it and I know what I can withstand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it about the house management that you hated? Like, I mean, you're jumping into it again now, but like, what was it like about it?
At the time being, it was because I didn't know what I was doing. Like they expected me to do all these things. And essentially basically had no skills. Like I didn't even know how to take clothes to the dry cleaner. I didn't know how to grocery shop for somebody else because I lived off of like convenience as my short adult life that I had before that.
Right.
So all these skills I had to learn basically through that job. And it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of really getting things wrong and learning from that.
And how did you feel about doing a lot of trial and error to get things right?
It was very difficult. It was a very stressful time.
What would you have rather have done instead to like learn all that skills?
I wouldn't have rather done anything else. That's the way it needed to be done.
Okay, I see. You rather did not do it, period. You'd rather just take care of the kids.
No, I purposely put myself in that position to do what I to basically sink or swim.
Okay, so you put yourself in a situation that was extremely difficult so that you could
learn,
grow and learn as a person.
Yes. Otherwise, I didn't have so many skills that an adult should have because I just spent most of my life like in my head and not going outside and not experiencing the world.
Got it. Okay. Now, what was your second gig like afterwards? Was it a lot better? Like
it was, yeah.
What did you like?
It was a lot better. What did I like about it?
Yeah.
That I didn't have as much responsibility, that I got to enjoy doing my job as caring for the child and not have to worry about everything else. It was just simple. And the child was well-mannered and it was just 1,000 times easier.
So it was like night and day.
Yes, it was the ease and like getting to relax now that I put myself through needing to get my foot in the door. I could, I had that experience now, and then I could get to a place where I was able to be a little bit choosier about what I say yes and no to.
And then you must have been choked when the gig ended then, because if it was so smooth.
That job ended because I actually ended up moving out of state to be with my boyfriend who got a job. So I said goodbye to them that time.
I see. So where were you from and where did you move to?
I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and I moved to like the west coast of Michigan at that time.
And where are you now?
Chicago again.
Oh, you went back home?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel about moving there and then back? Like, what was the move like? Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I didn't like it. It was very scary for me just because I felt like I was in a place where I had things pretty well made. But I wanted to keep my relationship, which meant a lot to me. So I felt like I had to choose. And I essentially chose to stay with him and relocate. And it didn't end up working out. And I think part of it was because it was so hard for me.
But he was okay with moving back then to Chicago?
No, I'm not with that boyfriend anymore. We broke up.
Okay, that's a different guy. Oh, I thought you're...
So, yes. So this is many years ago. I've been nannying for 10 years. So.
Yes. Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was the same guy. I was like, oh.
No, that was like my second nannying job. That was many years ago.
I see. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. If what is the number one thing that matters to you the most in life? Like, what is the most important thing to you?
Probably harmony.
And why harmony?
To me, it's just beautiful. It's the lack of suffering or anxiety or pain in the world. It's idealistic. So I'm not delusional in thinking that suddenly, the world's going to be this harmonious place, but it's something that I idealistically value.
Would you say you're a very relaxed person in general? Like,
I thought I was, but a few years ago I was basically told that I wasn't, and so I had to look at that.
Who told you you weren't? And
My boyfriend.
oh, your boyfriend. Okay.
My current boyfriend.
Okay, what made him say that you're not a relaxed person?
Because I was very meticulous about the way I want things to be, I think. And he's more like go with the flow, take things as they come kind of a person.
Okay, and then how do you
Like,
feel?
I'm very controlling.
Okay, yeah, but what do you how do you feel about him being like go with the flow and just like?
I thought I was go with the flow, so I felt like we meshed really well, but then it became apparent that it just wasn't the case. And when I asked other people, they agreed essentially that, yeah, I'm pretty like chill because I'm so quiet and I'm always in my head, but at the same time I'm deep down really not, because I'm always needing to control things.
What are you trying to control?
Every situation. I just want to make sure that everything happens the way that I want it to happen, or I can get to a result, because I'm always thinking in the future. So even though like it could just be tomorrow, and if the way you want your tomorrow to go doesn't align with the way I want it to go, because I have goals that I want to meet, then we're gonna bump heads and run, me and my boyfriend do that kind of, or he basically just doesn't want to follow like instruction on how to do things or what to do in order for us to get to the place where we need to get to. This is all very vague. I know I'm really bad with giving like direct examples.
No, it's fine. It's fine. No, I got a lot of good stuff from there. Do you like watching movies, or do you like
Yeah.
like what kind of movies do you like to watch?
I like thrillers, documentaries. Sometimes I like comedy, but most comedy is too cheesy in my opinion. Mostly like psychological thriller type stuff.
Gotcha.
I watch a lot of like true crime stuff.
And what is it about true crime stuff that like intrigues you?
I like the fact that I can try to piece things together, and try to get inside like the mind of somebody else.
Like the psychopath killer or something, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, got it. So how often do you watch movies or TV or those documentaries, like on a given week, would you say?
Usually just on the weekends, like for a few hours a day.
And you find that enjoyable? Like you like doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable, but it's not something that I like can devote time to more than just a few hours, like on a weekend.
Okay, because you work, do you work Monday to Friday? Do you work 7 days a week as a nanny?
I work Monday through Friday. Yeah.
Okay. And the families doesn't need a nanny on the weekend, so?
No, not this one.
Okay, so some of them did.
Some, yes. The first family, that it was literally 7 days a week, 24/7.
But then
except for 1 weekend a month.
But afterwards,
I'm sorry?
Afterwards, you didn't have any more gigs like that? Like you had your weekends back and stuff? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
okay, cool. Okay, I think I got enough information. Okay, this is
Really?
this is just my opinion. Okay, I don't know. I have to speak to Benjamin obviously to see what he thought you were like. And then I'll talk to you more off camera. But like you not liking moving and having new experiences to me was very not EP like. Like
Okay.
for EPs, usually EPs like to be somewhere different. You know, they don't mind going back. I mean, this is just I'm an EP, so I would know. And
Okay. Yeah.
I've spoken to a lot of like EPs before, And I would never personally live a life that you're living right now. And I've spoken to a lot of ESFPs at work and whatnot. They were typed by MBTI, so maybe they're not ESFPs, but for them, they would say things like, yeah, I love traveling, I like going to different places, but you don't seem to like to do that at all. Now you do have play last, so I had to keep prodding, and then you call yourself a control freak, which is kind of, you kind of laugh, made fun of yourself. Yeah.
But I do now. When I first heard that news, I was kind of offended by it.
Yeah. So if you're consuming SF stuff. So SF stuff is more like popular stuff, popularity stuff, so like movies and stuff. So yeah, it sounds like you do like to consume that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you do consume.
Yeah.
And you like mysteries, right? So that's kind of like bordering kind of like the conspiracy theory kind of stuff, right? Like the unknown, like there's some kind of like crazy stuff happening there. And also the fact that you focus on psychological stuff, that's very like almost NF, right? Like, so that's just my take on it. Like I said, it's very hard to narrow it down. I'm looking at the stuff here. I mean, you seem to be, from what I can tell, I do think you're gathering, but you're organizing more than you're gathering, from what I can see. Even your job itself is organizing. And your ST is actually pretty good. That's what confused me, actually.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? You kind of broke up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing that confused me is that your ST is not bad, actually. It's pretty good, which is weird because it's your fourth. But then when
I agree.
Yeah, but when you talked about your plan for the future and why it matters to you so much, like the why, and the what, like it was easy for you to explain it. Like, you want to be a nanny for the next 20 years. You want to have a business. You were like very clear about it, but you also gave your reasons and kind of like your own beliefs, in the abstract world, like you said, all it took was just one person to not replace, but take the spot of the mother, and that the kid will be okay. Like so you talked about that. But overall, it was really hard to type you. So this is just my guess. Okay, that you are a jumper INTJ, but this is just my guess. Like I'll speak to Benjamin and see what he got. But
what animal order?
No, that I think you're sleep, consume, blast, play, double feminine.
Okay.
Consume, sleep, blast, play, double feminine.
And that would make
NIFI.
Sleep double activated? No.
I don't know. I'll draw a picture.
I don't know.
see what it looks like. Let's see. So NITE. Give me 1 second here. Just gonna.
You're drawing it?
Yeah, I'm drawing it right now as we speak. just so I can see. So let's see. We got sleep first, number 1. Good. Blast, number 3. Yeah, double activated NI. And then consume, number 2. Yeah, so double activated FI, which would make sense why your FI is so strong, right? Although even if you were typed as an ESFP, it's still double activated, so it doesn't really, like, it's still there.
Yeah.
I just feel like you haven't really gathered much stuff. Like even when you were talking about like how do you know that you're gonna get in trouble for having a video on YouTube? Like how do you know? Like you told me why you thought, but I was like, where did you get this information from? You're like, it's just obvious, like that this is kind of like expected to be professional. I'm like, but how do you know? Like,
just know.
yeah, exactly. You just know, like, but like, so you didn't gather the SE there. Like, there's no
Do you think that's something that I could be wrong about?
What's
like,
that?
just, Do you think that that's something that I could be wrong about just because I haven't gathered?
Yes, I think so. I don't think you've gathered. So, like, I feel like you're saying this right now in your nanny. And then I'm pretty sure if we go to YouTube and look for like a nanny vlogger, you'll find one. You know, like there's someone the exact same job as you, and then they're like vlogging like crazy in their spare time. They're like,
They're gonna get fired.
no, but that's also an assumption, right? Because you don't know that. Like maybe they're okay, they're not fired. You know, like it's like like
Maybe, I don't know.
yeah. I'm just saying that. Like you don't know that. Like so, the fact that you were making so much like assumption, was a very EJ or IJ kind of thing to do. Like it's very IJ to make so much assumption.
I have been full of assumption in the past for sure.
Yeah, so that was for me one of the biggest clue was like how do you know you're making assumptions here? You know, you're making assumptions. Like it's just assumption after assumption after assumption. Like how do you know? You don't know. Like you just like you assume that that's just the way it is. You know.
I feel like I know. Okay.
Yeah, but
no, I get it. Yeah.
But you didn't gather. So if you were an EP, you would have gathered, and because you didn't gather, you assume instead that would, in my opinion, that would make you an IJ. And that for me was like the biggest clue. I was like, it did not
The
do
one thing.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure if we talked long enough, there would be other things for sure.
I know. That's why I said it's
like
a
that.
guess. That's why I said it's a guess because, like I said, I don't know. But it was pretty strong though. It was. I mean, the other supporting document or clues I have is like, okay, you don't like gathering new experiences. You literally have the same experience. You've been a nanny right now, and which is kind of okay because it's kind of NI, right? Like that's kind of your NI box.
Yeah.
So even if you were an EP or ESFP, then it would still be NI. You would still be kind of within that box. That's what made it a little bit confusing. But you seem so adamant about it. You seem relatively quite competent at figuring out what you want to do with your future too. Like it wasn't like you didn't have any struggles with that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if you were an ESFP, then you would struggle with your NI. Like what am I doing? Like
it would cause problems, right?
Yeah, but you're not. Like you know what you're doing, and you know what you want to do for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Now you did have consume second, and it did seem like you legitimately enjoyed consuming like entertainment.
I do.
Yeah, so it's not like you don't have it as a savior.
No.
You still have it, and you're good at listening too. Actually, from what I can see, because if you had consumed as a demon, you would be a poor listener. But from what I can see, you're actually really good at listening. Like you have a very good ability to listen deeply, which makes sense also because you're a nanny, so you obviously need to listen to the kids and the family. Right?
Yeah.
All right, so that's my guess right now. I would say like if I had more time, I think to figure this out with you, I think that's kind of where it would lead up to. At least that's just my opinion. So I'm gonna speak to Benjamin and then confirm with him, and I'll let you know kind of like what he thought. But
Okay.
that's kind of like where I want to end this interview at.
Okay.
So what
Thank you.
What do you think? Or
I already narrowed it down to one or the other, so it's just like for me, it's almost at the point where it's just like just the intrigue of trying to narrow it down to which one it is. I just want to be able to, because you're so close. It's one or the other.
Yeah,
and
it's only two. Yeah.
So either or, like I said, for me, it feels basically like the same type since I feel relatively balanced.
Right.
But so yeah, good to know that you basically did the same thing though. You narrowed it straight down to those two.
Oh, is that what he did also? Is that what Benjamin also did?
I don't know. He didn't really. No, I was speaking
yourself
about from where I was. Yeah. I don't really know his thoughts. So maybe he'll share them with you.
Yeah, I'll ask him and I'll get back to you then.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna end the interview and then we can chat briefly afterwards, and then we'll
wrap
it up. Okay, so I'll say goodbye to everyone. Hi everyone. Thanks again to Lisa for doing the interview. All right, so here we go, and